Okay, library hall slash reading recommendations. I always reading recommendations. I always I don't like calling it library hall. It sounds it's mainly because like no one I know of like that does comics for on YouTube. I know on YouTube, not like on personally, obviously. They don't name it like library. They don't go to library. They buy books because they can afford them. Like to keep buying books, you know, the amount of books they buy, they're like, I'm prattling on. Let's get on to it. I think you guys get the point. First three April movies, as I mentioned yesterday's video, Out of Sight, I decided Out of Sight, the movie. It came with Intolerable Cruelty, which I do own myself. I have not watched that one because, it was done but it was like my aunt had given it to me, and it was just one of those movies I didn't know anything about, and so I guess it didn't interest me. I'm looking at the disc of Out of Sight right now. It doesn't look too bad because it's a library. It's a DVD, so I don't know how it's gonna be on my finicky DVD player. I can barely play a movie that has one scratch on it. So, but it played the other two just fine. Well, it played one of them just fine. The other one was the newer one. The one was older, and I played that one just fine. Yeah, Out of Sight was, if you didn't know already, I will do a TLDR for those of you who didn't know. I'd seen a clip on it on YouTube, and it was like a YouTube short, and I was like, hey, it looks pretty interesting, I'll check it out. Coincidentally enough, I got Thief of Thieves yesterday, and yesterday, that's why I mentioned it, and yesterday, I got Thief of Thieves. Oh, and they say it's a lot like Out of Sight, like almost like identical to that, and Ocean's 11. Like Ocean's 11 meets Out of Sight, however you would say that. Ocean's 11, coincidentally enough, is on Netflix, so I'll probably be watching both of them. Because again, mainly Out of Sight, and both George Clooney too. Both star George Clooney. Deleted scenes, neat. I always like when I do deleted scenes, even though I forget, because Everything Everywhere All at Once that had deleted scenes. Forgot about that one. Awakenings. They referenced this on Family Guy in an episode I watched a long time ago, and they watched the clip again, like not too long, like not too long. No, it was a long ago. I watched the original episode, and then I saw the clip of it the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, Awakenings. And I looked up the clip, and I was like, hey, that looked good. It's usually what I do for movies. Like I'll watch a clip. Trailers, yeah, they'll do that for me too, obviously. But I think clips even more so than a trailer. Like there's coincidentally enough, with George Clooney romantic comedy coming out, I like the clip a lot better than the trailer. Mainly because the trailer gives away too much. That's another thing. Clips don't usually give away too much. The Emperor's New Groove. My favorite. I would say just a criminally underrated Disney movie. And my nephew's over this weekend, so I'll be showing him this. I will show him this, I guess I can say. Can't watch any of these movies with him because he's actually it's in PG-13. Technically, he's allowed to watch PG-13. He watches MCU. Look, he did watch Deadpool. Yep, that's right. 5-year-old saw Deadpool. My 5-year-old nephew. Actually, his 4th time. They didn't know. It's a classic example of, oh, it's Marvel, so that's kiddie, right? Far from it. But anyways, and yeah, I know what some of you gonna say. Oh, it's a rating. You know, it's rated R. You should know that. He should have. Yeah, he should have. Ratcatcher. It's a weird one because it's in like this very small. I don't like when I do this because it's wicked small, and the word balloons are even smaller because they have to fit it into the smaller size. I don't know if it was originally like this. Probably it was, but like why do that? It's Vertigo too, which is even more jarring because they do standard size for their soft covers and most of their hardcovers. If anything, it's been an oversized. It's a hardcover. But I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have minded if it was. God, spit it out. I wouldn't have minded if it was standard size. It's another one that's not standard size. It's a little bit bigger, at least. See, and this, and that is Apocalyptic Girl by Andrew McLean. I should have known that. I really want to like get a feel for how his artwork is in a book, and I could just read Hemlock. I probably should, but I was looking up Andrew McLean. I don't know. See what they had, and they had this, and I was like, all right. Now there is technically a second edition. Well, it is a second edition that has more story in it, which kind of made me a bit angry, but whatever. I got this one. Had I known, I would have gotten the one that the other library had. It was intro loans and Gmilks. I did Gmilks want to get it quicker. The interlibrary loan one, because it was there. The interlibrary loan one could have been the same thing. You never know. Maybe they just used that cover. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Why did I say like I didn't know what it was? I was like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I've always wanted to read this run, but I was too skeptical to buy it, and I kind of realized that probably not the best idea to buy an ongoing series. I don't like doing that as is. But I mean, John Constantine, what you'll see soon. Actually, I didn't show it yet. But there's books like John Constantine that they don't even have all the volumes that are out right now. So, you know. But this one, again, one I wanted to read for a very long time. I was always interested in it, but I never was into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when I was a kid. I had the toys, tried watching the TV show, could not get into it for the life of me. I was thinking of watching the movie when it came out in 2017, but the 2017 movie. But other than that, no interest in Power Rangers. I had the toys. The toys were cool. My nephew loves Power Rangers, so he'll probably see me reading this and want to read it too. But it's a library book, and plus a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old library book. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. This is So this is what's really irritating about this one, is that this is Brian Michael Bendis' run. They have 2 ongoings. That's Brian Michael Bendis' run, because I want that new number 1, so they relaunched it in 2015, I believe. Yeah, 2015, 2016. And so I always have to make sure I'm on the right one when I do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I gotta make sure when I see Volume 3, it's can't do Volume 3 in the Interlibrary Loan site. For whatever reason, it won't show up. But I looked that up. I had to do, and I make sure that was Volume 3. That's the one thing I don't like about Marvel. I wish that you can do your new number 1s to like Cows Come Home, but when you're collecting it in a collected edition, you should at least do, and by the same author, you should at least do volume like 7 or whatever when it's a new number 1. They did that for Rumble, and that's Image Comics, but no one complained then. I don't think anybody would complain. I think more people would be happy than annoyed. 24 panels. This, along with Ratcatcher and another one, are all original graphic novels. So I'll probably, especially this one, be trying to finish it all in one sitting. I don't know how successful I'll be with Ratcatcher, because I kind of want to read them all tonight and then give tomorrow for like reading at least one of every book, because it's one of every book. It's 20 pages. It's a really weird of me, really weird like tick of mine. But when I can't, like I manage it, I like to read at least one issue per book, and I usually am able to. And I didn't get any more books. If anything, I got less books than I did last time, so I shouldn't have any problem with it. And it'll be 3 down tomorrow. That'd be even better, you know. But yes, 24 panels. This is like a anthology comic to aid PTSD needs of survivors of the Grenfell Tower fire, which I have not heard of, surprisingly. I feel like I would have, because it happened fairly recently. But this is Dan Waters. Does a lot of big name creators. I mainly got it for Dan Waters. I wanted to check out more of his writing. You got, let's go through them all. Kieran Gillen. I'm just gonna name the big names. I know Alex it can't be. I know Alan Moore did one. Paul Cornell. Al Ewing. Alex Moore. I thought I said Alan Moore. It's hard because a lot of these. Alan Moore, there you go. There's a lot of stories in here. And they went 100%. They're pretty short stories. Ram V. And then Dan Waters is last. Nice. Yeah, it's like 104 pages. Pretty thin book, but $16.99. It's Teen Plus. Now, what I mentioned Teen Plus? Well, most of the books I've gotten, I feel, from the library, from Image Comics, have almost all of them been mature rated. Just by sheer coincidence, not because I was doing that on purpose. No, it was by sheer coincidence. It was mature rated, and I gotten Birthright, and especially when I got Invincible 2, yeah, but especially when I got Birthright, I seen Teen Plus, and I was like, what does that even mean? And I found out recently that means that it's 16 and up, and teen means 13 and up, like you're normal teen. Which is kind of weird because I think T for teen is like technically for kids. Like say, yeah, it's PG-13, but kick it for you just fine, not be too scarred or not learn too much you already know. I think because they have a book rated T for teen, they say is for all ages, and it's not Skull Kickers. It was Sea of Stars by Jason Aaron, and I think Angelic too. I think both those are rated T14 technically. Amazon says 13 to 16. That means T14. I know I'm rambling, but I'm trying to like not that I'm rambling, but I'm kind of like over explaining. But that was one thing. I didn't have the book in my hand, the right book in my hand. That's one thing I want to mention. All new X-Men, because for Marvel, T-teen means all ages, kind of sort of like it's like PG, and then PG-13 is 13 plus, whereas Image it's in between PG-13 and R, mature being R. All new X-Men, all different. This is a series that I do like, but there's a lot that I forgot because it's a reread, and there's a lot that I forgot about, and a surprising amount as you'll see when I review. I have one issue left. I might as well review, but I have one issue left of the crossover with Guardians of the Galaxy. There's the Trial of Jean Grey. There's a lot that I forgot about that one. Like I forgot why it was called Trial of Jean Grey, which is a pretty alarming, not reason, but like a pretty damning reason, I guess you could say. Like it's like how would you not remember why it was called that when I read it? So it goes to show how much I've forgotten about that series. And I finally, on side note, I finally picked Guardians back up because I had to wait for the crossover, because the crossover had the next 2 issues. And for whatever reason, it's not for whatever reason, it's not for whatever reason, because Guardians came after All New X-Men, a year after All New X-Men. All New X-Men is 22, and Guardians is 11 to 13. All New X-Men was 20 to 24 for the crossover with Jean Grey. For the Trial of Jean Grey. Transmetropolitan, Volume 6. Yet a reread, and still pretty good. This is technically related because they're both politics heavy comics, but there's no DMZ. There's no next volume of DMZ. If you've been following my reviews of DMZ, you should have a pretty good understanding of why that is. But for those of you who don't know, you'll know when I review DMZ. Right now, one of the comics. Yeah, I was kind of trying to be like a spoilers, speaking of which kind of thing. Dungeons and Dragons at the Spine of the World. I saw it and I was like, kind of like, yeah, I like these enough. But so far, all I liked has been Jim Zelb's run. Everything else with the other book I read was terrible. But this one, time will tell if I like it. Wonder Woman: The Just War. This is the G. Willow Wilson run. I'm surprised how recently the libraries that I'm picking up these more recent books. This I feel like just came out it came out like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, but I feel like it's just a year ago. And that's because usually when it's a newer volume of a series, I feel like the library doesn't have it. They'll have like the first, I don't mean local library, I mean interloans, like just their libraries in general. I feel like they just don't have it. They'll have like the first 7 volumes of a 10-volume series, and they won't pick it up because it's too recent. I don't know. It's not like it's that old. It doesn't say that old. It's not like that. It's that new, that recent. But I don't know. I think it was 2020 at the very least. So yeah, 2 years ago. Shadow Man Book 1 by Cullen Bunn, by Valiant Comics. This is a big gamble. I have not read a single thing except for one issue of Bloodshot. Coincidentally enough, by an author I really like. Coincidentally enough, by an author I don't like, Tim Seeley. I don't like Tim Seeley's writing, but I liked Bloodshot. But this is by an author I do like, Cullen Bunn. So, time will tell if I like this one. I should, but I didn't like a Jeff Lemire book that he did for Valiant. I love Jeff Lemire's other work, so. Maybe it's just all the crap creators I don't like what's his name? Tim Seeley. Their Valiant stuff is good, and it's like flipped around on its head. Superman Red and Blue, yet another anthology, but this time it's per issue. I don't think I'll be able to read all that in one sitting. Very controversial first issue, and I just didn't get the best reviews from people I trust, but they did like the last issue, or it's the 5th issue, because there's 6 in here. They did like the 5th issue. And I was like, you know what, they have it in my local library, why not get it? Cannot believe I was about to spend $39.99 on this book back in the day, back when it was first released. I am so glad I waited, because it was worth it. Well, even if I don't like it, it's worth it. It's got it for free. So yeah, I can't say for sure. I can't say for sure right now. Was there anything here? Weird. just a slip of paper saying, "Oh, here's the book, Roger's Moral Library from Derry. Why the Last Man, book 4. Another reread, and this is for a pretty good reason. Not only did I forget a lot about what happened in this book, but this is one of my favorite comics of all time. So obviously I was gonna reread it. Oh, and no Preacher either. They didn't have it. Preacher volume was in stock when I solicited it. And it was taken out of that library that had it, which is kind of annoying. And I bet it was the same guy who took out volume 1 a few weeks ago when I was gonna get volume 1 of Preacher way back a few weeks ago. That's another one that I liked. And another example, like Why the Last Man, which is a reread of a series. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. So it's like, why not read it again? And it's like, again, and then I don't remember a whole lot. Yeah, I can just mention that. Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a video game series that I played as a kid. I was more of a Mario kid than a Sonic kid. But I always want to check out the comics, but not purchase them. Especially not purchase the $59.99 overpriced IDW collections. Yeah, I know it's an oversized hardcover, but for like, what, 300 pages, $60? That's ludicrous. I think it went oversized just to jack up that price. Which, again, it makes sense, oversized hardcover, but it's just one of those things I was like, yeah, nah, I'll get whatever I have at my local library, if they have anything. I'm surprised they had anything, honestly. Along with the TMNT series. Which I really should get back on. The End Fantastic Four. This is a series that I read, it's another reread, and I didn't like it the first time, and every comic YouTuber I'm subscribed to that has talked about this book likes this book. Like, everyone. Even ones that have like major differences in opinion than other ones. Like this guy, he likes these kinds of books. This guy, he likes those kinds of books. They're very different. They both said this was good. So I need to reread this, see if it holds up. Well, see if it's not that it holds up because I didn't like it the first time, but see if it's better the second time around. I didn't hate it. It's just one of those ones I wasn't like super in love with either. John Constantine Hellblazer. They had this a day after I went last time, and it didn't annoy me too much because not only did they not have like I mentioned before, not only did they not have all the volumes, they have like the first 10 out of 28 of Hellblazer. Not only was I fine with putting it aside because I wanted to get it for I was only getting this to get back on the Garth Ennis run, which I liked. That was probably my favorite run of Hellblazer so far, but it was kind of like those, and it's by Jimmy Delano's run. I like it a lot better than my third time around, but it's still not my favorite run. I'm still trying to I'm only reading this because I want to get Garth Ennis' run. I want to go in order. You know, I don't want to, even though Garth Ennis starts from scratch, I still want to read what comes before. And then I'll get on Garth Ennis' run. And I was fine with waiting a week because I was still on Preacher. I still am on Preacher, so I was like, yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind that. I'm on Preacher right now for my Garth Ennis kick, so we're good. Yeah, John Constantine Hellblazer, Volume 3. I thought that was a volume that Grant Morrison had wrote a story for Hellblazer, but I don't think it is. I looked up the credits, it wasn't credited. It's weird. Princeless. The only reason I got this book was because of the fact that there's a Skull Kickers crossover I thought would not been collected in the hardcovers. It is. So there's really no point in getting this. I should have waited till I had the hardcover of Skull Kickers to solicit this. I really should have. Especially because of the fact I put Rat Catchers in later, and I got Rat Catchers, like I put it in like on Monday, and I got it on Wednesday. It was 2 days later. And I was going until today, so it worked out for the best. I didn't know that technically, you know, I'll give myself that, but I mean, I'm probably like, but Princeless is like, and not that I'm saying this to downplay it, and that it matters, but Princeless is a kiddie book, and more kiddie than, which is kind of weird than Skull Kickers. I can't say for sure, but I don't think, with Skull Kickers, it said it has a lot of bloody violence in it, and it's a pretty violent book, and it's rated T for teen, too. Again, like I said, might be Image Comics maybe doing the Marvel thing where T for teen means PG, but not PG-13. I don't know. it's very hard because the way that indie publishers do their junk for their even Marvel, it's kind of confusing. Like they just say like PG, which you could be reading honest, like anything like that, and then have like the little like because of for sequences of action and violence. And I know like they probably can't do that. I think the rating is a trademark, but like do get a joke in a joking manner. You know, it's not like official. You know. I don't know. It's a huge nitpick of mine. I don't really mind. I shouldn't really mind. Like, when I was to get mature rated indie books? Wow, that says a lot about myself. But that's not really the point. It's kind of more like, why? You know, it makes sense to me. Like, if you're gonna make a violent for, like, teens, make it teen plus? I don't know. There probably is a reason. I'll bet Princeless is more kiddie than Skull Kickers is. The age rating on Amazon is much lower too. So the main reason why I was so confused. They say Skull Kickers is 13 and up, and I think Princess they said it was 4 to 8. And I don't think it was 4 to. I don't think it was grades. I think it was age. I don't know. Yeah. Really weird to me. So I don't want to get like a kitty book. Like I'm not gonna get like an Arthur book or a Curious George book. That's technically the same age range. When you consider like, you know, their age when they're reading. We Stand on Guard by Brian K. Vaughan. Almost bought this book myself. But I didn't. I was like, hey, maybe they have the library. And they did. Decided to get the deluxe edition of Rat Queens Volume 1. They have an extra story in here that's not included in Volume 2. And I kind of want to go back to the beginning. I was like, you know what? Let's refresh my memory. I didn't love this comic when I read the first volume, but towards the end it grew on me. So, we shall see how Volume 2 is. But Volume 2 is drawn by Tess Fowler, and I don't feel too great getting a book by Tess. I don't feel too great getting a Tess Fowler book when I've heard all the junk she's done. Wayward Volume 5. Just my favorite comics that I've read recently. Super good. It's also Jim's Up, which I got Skull Kickers. It's kind of funny. Okay, that completely fell over. Alright. It's probably because I have it stacked, like everything stacked, so the movie is, you know, smaller than the comics are, than most of the comics are. So it's like, we can tower Pisa much, and then it falls over. I'm improvising. It was a pretty bad joke. I wasn't trying to joke, so I get a free pass. Alright. Here we go. Autumn Lands by Kurt Busiek. I like Kurt Busiek, and I don't like Kurt Busiek's writing. I liked his Marvels, wasn't super in love with his Astro City. I did like a lot better the second time, but I wasn't quick to put in Volume 2. Just listed Volume 2. They had Volume 1 local library. They didn't have Volume 2. I had to just listed that into Interloan. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait. And I forgot. So the next one is a pretty thick book, and it's just technically an original graphic novel. It's an anthology, so like every issue was like 5 pages long, but it's at least 200. Oh, it's contribution. So it's like 206 pages of book, and that is Flight. Now this book I only got because I saw it in the background of a Nostalgia Critic review, and he was doing it wasn't it was a real thought, so it was more like a Doug Walker review. It wasn't an actual full-fledged Nostalgia Critic review, but it's called Real Thoughts. And saw that in the background. I was like, hey, it's the comic. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right. And it's an anthology. All right, I'll pick it up. I know. I basically just did it because he had it in his. When you see a comic in a movie reviewers that doesn't normally talk about comics, when you see in his collection, you're like, okay, that was good enough for him to buy it. All right, and it's all 8 volumes too. I was like, okay, let's go. Snot Girl. I almost bought this myself. This is one of those books that I never picked up. I had heard it was good from Comic Drake, and even back when I liked Comic Drake, I still didn't pick this up. I thought it's one of the gross out comic, and I was like, I'm not in the mood for a gross out comic. Nothing's really changed, but it's by Brian Lee O'Malley, who did Scott Snyder, who did Scott Pilgrim. So I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. I really enjoyed Scott Pilgrim, so. Doesn't have the best reviews, and everyone who reviewed it says who gave it a negative review was like, it's not as good as Scott Pilgrim. I got it because of Scott Pilgrim. I like Scott Pilgrim. This isn't too great. So it's like, nah, I probably shouldn't buy it. See if they have it in the library. They have both their volumes. Okay. Getting it there. And last, but certainly not the least, Batman Reptilian by Garth Ennis. I was ecstatic when not only did I find this on Gmilks, that they're quicker interlibrary loans, but they also were fine with me getting it. It was like, yeah, it hasn't been 6 months yet, but we'll still check it out to you. They didn't say that to me, but I thought maybe it's different from Gmilks. I don't know. Maybe it's 3 months instead. It's a cut in half. But I got it, and I can finally read this, finish the series. I got the first like 3 or 4 issues. I think it was 3. And I never got to finish it. So, excited to finally dig into it. And I'll probably be selling the first 3 issues, so. If you live in my area. If you live, none of you guys do, because when some of you guys will, I'll get a Twitter, I get an Instagram, not Twitter. I'll get an Instagram notification at 3 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, you guys don't live where I do, unless you're pulling an all-nighter. Usually I'm trying to go to sleep. That's why I've been turning on Do Not Disturb. Alright, now let's go into reviews. Everything Everywhere All at Once is my favorite movie of the year. Hands down. Hands down. It is incredible. It is utterly original. But the most original movie I've... most original movie I've seen, like, ever. There's so much to this movie that I'm not gonna spoil. I'm not gonna spoil anything from the movie, anything, because it's one. I'm distracted. I thought I heard someone call my name, and it's like one of those things where they gonna repeat it, and I'm gonna hear it again. But anyways, just one of the most original movies, Knockout. It is just as good as people are saying it is, and what's funny is that everyone's ranting and raving about this movie, saying it's the best thing ever, because it is. It's one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. And I might just buy it myself. I might just buy the Blu-ray myself, even though I can get the DVD at my local library anytime. Well, checked out I can't, but you know what I mean. Bridge of Terabithia. Childhood movie of mine. It still holds up. That and I'm gonna compare this movie. I'm gonna compare it to a movie that you're not gonna get their point at first, but I'll explain myself after. The Odd Life of Timothy Green is another one. It's a lot like Bridge of Terabithia, where it's very sentimental. You know, when they want you to know how you're supposed to feel. The movie's like, you feel this emotion, you feel that emotion. It's one of those movies, but I still love it. That and Odd Life of Timothy Green is one of the most sentimental. Odd Life of Timothy Green, like, sentimental to an insane degree. I still like it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. But Bridge of Terabithia is also just a good movie in itself. You know, everyone seems to like Bridge of Terabithia. No one seems to talk about Timothy Green, which good reason for why. I still like both. Wayward, like I just said, it's insanely good. It's Jim Zub at its best, and surprisingly underrated Image comic series. I would say check it out. Maybe get the hardcovers. Maybe more worth your buck. Because if it's not out of print already, it's gonna be. Not because I said something, everyone's gonna buy it now. No, because seems to be the case with Image Comics hardcovers. They go out of print fast, especially if it's a critically acclaimed series. Which I don't think a lot of people know about Wayward, but it's a good series. If you like anime, you'll probably like this. I'm not a huge fan of anime. I love this. It's more anime inspired than anime. Like, they don't do, like, it's not black and white. It's not a manga, but you can tell that Jim Zub has read a lot of anime and read a lot of manga and watched a lot of anime because it's very anime influenced. Outcast. I don't hate anime. It's just I'm not like a huge fan of that. I'll watch like some. I do want to watch the Assassination Classroom anime because I like that manga. Probably my favorite manga so far. Outcast. They didn't have the most recent volume. It was weird. I know they had volume 7 at the very least, but they didn't have it this time around. So I'll try again next time because I love Outcast. I wanted to finish it because I didn't get to read volume 8 because I got to volume 7 and I was like, oh, volume 8 just came out. We're not gonna have it, and I didn't because it was that new. Like, it had just come out when I was on volume 7. I was looking. I was get volume 7 honestly. But one of my favorite Robert Kirkman books, which isn't saying much. I haven't read a whole lot by Robert Kirkman, even though I feel like I have. But that and Walking Dead is like one of my favorite comics of all time. It's up there with Saga, Preacher, and Why the Last Man. Cold Spots by Cullen Bunn. surprisingly good. I mean, it's not gonna be like, it's not like groundbreaking comic. It does not break new ground. I've seen bits of it before, but it's slightly original. Probably it's because I haven't seen comics like that. But it's Cullen Bunn horror. You can't go wrong with that. It's not. Don't think it's gonna be like. Don't think it's gonna be like a knockout or anything like that. It's nothing special, but it's a nice bargain bin comic. Like if I got a bargain bin at Newbury Comics, I wouldn't have been too annoyed. I would have been fine with that. Even full price, honestly, it kind of is. It is worth the price of admission, honestly. It's not too confusing either. So if you don't like those kinds of books that are super confusing, like if you pay attention, you'll know what's going on. It's just really good. It's really kept my interest. That's the least I want from a comic. At least I asked for a comic to do, was to keep my interest, and that's what this did, 1,000-fold. And it was also just an interesting story in itself. It wasn't just keep me entertained like it's junk food. No, it also had a good story to tell. Again, nothing groundbreaking though. Do not think this is my favorite comics of all time. It is not. It's just surprisingly good. Especially because it has pretty bad reviews on Goodreads. And in English everywhere. We Can Never Go Home. The favorite book. That's my pick of the week. My pick of the week is We Can Never Go Home by Matthew Rosenberg. It's another Black Mask book, and it might just be better than 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, which is the other Black Mask work. That's why I compared it to. It is insanely good. We need the volume 2. They said, coming out in 2016, volume 2. No word of it so far. At least nothing on I couldn't find it on Kindle. I couldn't find it looking up. It might just be on hiatus for now. I hope it is, because we need the volume 2. It's that good. Forgetting other crappy comics from Black Mask, we need this at least. A Darkened Wish. Now, this was the book that was in the worst condition that I have had a book from my local library, and just in general. The pages were falling apart. Everything else is fine, surprisingly. It looks exactly like, here, I'll show this. It looked like this, you don't notice anything, but you open the book, and you're like, the pages are falling apart. And I was like, great. It was annoying. It was a pain in the ass to have to, go through it, and I was like, every page I turned, fall apart. So I had to, make sure I put it back. I had to take it out, because it fell out. I read like this, like a piece of paper, and then put it back on the book. That was absolutely atrocious. They should that local library it wasn't a local library either, so it was an interloan. The library I got it from, they gotta get rid of it. They gotta just buy another copy. But it would be worth it. It wouldn't be worth it, because this is not a great book at all. I didn't like it at all. I forget everything that happened in the book. It's one of those books that I would read the same page 50 times, and every time I'd be like, I read this. I recognize one word, and I'd be like, wait, I read this page before. If I don't remember this, I remember this. That's how forgetful it was. I almost forget, the second I finished reading it, I'd be like, I forgot I read it, even. Which is why I write them down. Assassin's Creed, coincidentally enough, I have these both two together, because I didn't like Assassin's Creed either, the comics. It reminds me of why I don't play the campaign. It reminds me of why I skip the cutscenes when I can. It's boring, you don't care. And there's no Assassin's Creeding in this book. It all takes place in the future, but in the present, because it's the future. None of it in the past. No anime stuff. No. Why would you guys do that? Dan Waters' worst book, honestly. I'm glad it wasn't the first Dan Waters book I read either. Coda, it was alright. Not bad. I mean, I feel like I have to, slow down on the fantasy books I'm getting, because I need to at least know why I'm getting it. If I'm getting it just because of fantasy, it's not good. Because this is a fantasy book by an author that I like. I didn't like that one either. I didn't like it. It had a little bit good towards the end, but I feel like it was just too slow, honestly. I feel like there wasn't a lot of action, which I wasn't saying it had to be all action, and nothing else. And I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, you could have done a little bit more action, I feel. I don't know. I don't think that's my main complaint with it, either. It's not it didn't turn me off from the book. It was just, that wasn't the reason it turned me off from the book. It was just, I don't know. I feel like it was very slow. I feel like they could have covered what they covered in 4, it took them 4 issues to cover in, 2 issues, maybe. Because the first issue was super long, too. The first issue was, 45 pages long. And I feel like we got nothing out of that first issue. Unless, getting to know the characters, but that was 20 pages in, and you could have been fine. Jughead Volume 2. Chip Zdarsky leaves, and Ryan North, the Cantor Comics, comes in. And it wasn't as bad as Squirrel Girl, but it still wasn't good. I liked it, and it was funny because I liked it when he wasn't doing those jokes in the margins thing. Like here, this is what I mean. Show you this book again. So this is at the bottom. You see that the bottom, like that right here, the bottom thing, like that's white. That's the margin. For those of you who don't know, and Ryan North, like he'll put jokes into those ones. They're always the cringiest jokes like ever. And what's funny is that I actually laughed at some of the jokes that were inside the comic itself, the actual story itself, with the characters. I think when Ryan North, when he forces jokes, he's like, oh, I gotta put something in the margins. And he has to force a joke, and it doesn't work at all. I'm too good. I don't know. I had the perfect way to describe it and just lost it. But it just when he does that, it just makes the comic all that much worse. And it makes it longer too. Like each issue took like almost an hour to read. And if I didn't have that stuff in the margins, it would have taken me like a half hour to read. And it was because also as I took too many breaks, I couldn't. If I tried to read it all in one sitting, I'd go insane. So I had to take breaks and like do this or do that. Not like long breaks, like 5 minute. Well, it was 5 minute long breaks. Nothing longer than 5 minutes, obviously. And so it took me an hour to read. But it's like, damn, guys. Should not be the case with that. Transmetropolitan, it's a really good comic. Tells the right side of things. Isn't afraid to be vulgar. Isn't afraid to be a Warren Ellis book. And that's what I like about. Well, the less said about him, the better. But because I don't want to start anything, but I'm just saying like he's a controversial person in real life. But his writing is also controversial too. But like a lot of people like his writing, and separating art from the artist, all that thing. But that's what I like best about Warren Ellis books is that he's not afraid to be vulgar. He's not afraid to push the envelope, and he does. Now DMZ on the other hand, I feel is going nowhere. Transmetropolitan, they're both kind of the same books. They're both politics. They're both giving it to the man, you know, and more so than other books do. And you can tell it's a political book. DMZ just goes nowhere. Transmetropolitan, we're definitely going somewhere now. And DMZ goes 5 volumes in, or whatever it was. I think it was five. And this is an exception. It was like anthological tales telling you past these characters. Like I mean, they would tell you a little bit about this character. So it's like flashbacks or flash forwards. No, actually, no, all flashbacks. I think because one of the guys was named 10 years later. It was like his name was 10 years later. Like it was 10 years later. They called it comic 10 years later, but I think his name was years later. Something weird like that. But I thought that meant it was jumping in time 10 years later. But no, it's like kind of name. I think it's a nickname. I don't know. But DMZ, I feel like it's going nowhere. This volume was a little better than last time, but it's overly narrated. The narration gets to be makes the book really tedious. It's not a good book, and yes, I was kind of looking for an excuse to not like a Brian Wood book because that was some of the books I canceled for my comic call last time. And that was because again, Black Road had that Northlanders character in it, and I was like, oh, it's a mini series, so I have to read Northlanders, and it's $30+, $16.99 per volume, and to spend money on that too. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And it's a weird nitpick, but I want to, get these books. And they want to make another sacrifice just to get Northlanders, so I can get that book. No, and also I get best reviews on Goodreads. And I was like, yeah, I don't even like the guy that much, anyways. It's his rating at least. American Way, Volume 2, much better than Volume 1. I liked Volume 1, so it should go a lot. It goes a lot to say how I like the book. And it gave me everything I wanted, and everything I was hoping for to read about in the first volume. It was everything, like everything I wanted in it. A bit forgetful, a bit forgettable. A bit forgettable. I don't remember a whole lot from that series, but what I do remember from it was very harrowing stuff. It's by John Ridley, and some many people don't like John Ridley, and I'm kind of in the middle. I haven't read enough by him to give a full opinion on his writing, but what I've read, I liked. I liked his American Way, obviously, and I think I don't know what else I read from him. I want to say I've read more from him than just American Way. But so far, it's just American Way. Not exactly clamoring to buy his stuff, too. Buy his stuff, also. Okay! Sorry, it's got interrupted. Alright, Wake. The Wake by Scott Snyder. Very, very good. All the complaints I had last time went away because I didn't care this time around. This is a insanely good comic and insanely underrated comic. If you have not read it, check it out. I'm not gonna say too much about it. Especially if you like his Undiscovered Country. This is very similar to Undiscovered Country in terms of genre, but everything else is different. It's more horror technically than sci-fi, but I'd say it's more sci-fi than horror. But people that have read the comic refer to it as a horror comic. And I'm talking about the first part too. I'm talking about both parts, first and second, about being more sci-fi dystopian than horror. So it's sci-fi horror dystopian kind of thing, I guess you could say, like slash. Wonder Woman. Now moving on to Wonder Woman by Steve Orlando. Bad, terrible, no good. But if I didn't know that it was a comic, if I didn't know there was a comic that I liked, that orphan issue I read of Steve Orlando's run that was a little bit later in the game, I would not have continued on with Wonder Woman. The only reason why I got the G. Wilson run 1 was to get to the Steve Orlando run 1, which I hope they have at least that, finish off that storyline. Why the Last Man? It's a damn good comic, especially the second time around. I like it just as much as the first, if not more so. And it's just very good. It's keeps you on your toes. Just when you think things are gonna calm down, they throw this at the wall. Like, oh wow, here we go. What happened? Oh my god! I know I said it like that. Witcher, it was alright. It was kind of slow. I'm very mixed on Witcher. A lot of it I liked, a lot of it I didn't like, a lot of it some of it I hated. But the Monsters one was standout, the last story was standout, and most of the first story was... there's 3 stories. First was good, second was alright. The one-shot Monster Killers, whatever it was called, Monster Hunters, I forget what they call it. That one, Monster Killers. That one was good, and the best of the best, the Monster Hunters one-shot, Monster Killers one-shot. And then the last one, the Curse of the Crows, was mixed. Some of it was good, some of it was bad, but it was pretty good. It was at least interesting, But I'm not picking up any more of Witcher. I'm always watching the Netflix series now. Lando, Star Wars. This is the Rodney Barnes one. I didn't like it. It was honestly, the whole reason why I didn't get any Star Wars book this time around was because of Lando. I was like, I'm kind of sick of Star Wars comics now. And that was like the first issue in, so to go show how boring the comic was. Deadpool Volume 8, the last volume in the Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn run. Just really good. I love that run. Probably my favorite run next to Daniel Way's run. So I should say my favorite, because no one likes Daniel Way's run. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, the final volume. Same complaints I've always had. Moon Girl is an insufferable character, but everything else is good. But it's bogged down by the main character being just irritating. It's on every level irritating. She complains, and she's like, oh, and she's all condescending to people for no reason, and she's just like, it's almost like she's going through puberty, but they don't like say like, oh, this is the reason why. No, it's like, oh yeah, this character, she's this way. Deal with it. It's like, wow, okay. So I never want to meet you in real life, writer of Moon Girl. I'm not gonna say who it is, so I don't remember who it is. And I don't want to say it's because of them, like they're actually like Moon Girl and they're writing themselves into the character, but it's possible. I mean, have you heard of the stuff that all these comic creators have done? The ones that are the stories that are swept under the rug for the most part because they're protected. Like Vita Ayala has done some sketchy stuff. Tess Fowler, like I've heard, it's like the worst of the worst. So, Joe Glass. That was a huge controversy. That actually made mainstream comic news. That he's threatening people. Like, so he could be one of those people. You never know. The writer of Moon Girl. You never know. I don't think to that extreme because I know about it by now. But again, they never strictly say, oh yeah, this character's supposed to be this way, and when you're not supposed to root for her. No, it's like almost like you're supposed to root for her. She's a hero, and she's a protagonist. Not the antagonist, the protagonist. The boys, this is not. This is just you're supposed to like this character, I think. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be liking this character. Anyways, Illuminati, but again, everything else about Moon Girl I liked, except for the main character. So it is bogged down by that. It's the reason why I only get Moon Girl if they have it at my local library. There's one shot coming out recently. Maybe they'll have it at my local library 6 months down the line, but I don't know. If they don't, I don't care. Not buying $5. I should be $15.99 or no, it was $5 because I get a Kindle version. Not buying a $6 book of a character I don't like. You know, even if I want to get to the story, that's pretty good. Illuminati, a standout. Almost made it my pick of the week because it's an underrated comic too on every sense with every sense of the word. No one's talking about it. People give a lot of slack. Now, Illuminati, there's two Illuminatis. This is the Life of Crime version. This is the Joshua Williamson one, not the Bendis one. That's getting its own. That's getting its own Netflix app, not Netflix. It's getting a Disney Plus adaptation. It was featured in Doctor Strange, I think. I saw that in my local library, the new Doctor Strange. Still don't want to get it. Still don't want to watch it. I'm probably never watch that movie. It's based off what I've heard. It's disappointing from what I've heard. But Illuminati was the standout. Really good. Joshua Williamson. It proves that even a book that's not highly reviewed as like other stuff, Joshua Williamson will always bring his A game to a book, even if it's something like this. It is bogged down by it being it going into like the last few issues are tie-ins to an event. But if you hadn't told me it was a tie-in to an event, I wouldn't have known. I looked up reviews to see what the criticisms were, because I'm up for criticism. I can understand like if you don't like this book, hey, why don't you like this book that everyone likes? Let's hear your side of the story, and you can hear my side of the story. That's the whole point of reviewing books, is that a lot of people have different opinions about the book. Maybe you'll actually pick up the book because I said something, or because everyone else hates it, but I say it's good, and they're like, oh, maybe he said that bad. And we all like us, because we all have different opinions, surprisingly. But yeah, so I was looking up reviews, and they said that the last two issues were kind of bogged down by it being a part of the Avenger standoff, and I didn't really notice. It was like a few things. I'm like, wait, where'd that come into play? But it wasn't. I guess I more thought of it as they're just now introducing this. They tell you what's going on. It's not like it's just like, oh yeah, this now. No, it does kind of allude. It kind of does explain what's going on to those of you who haven't read I haven't read the event that's tied in with, which is the best kind of tie-in. Some of us just want to read that book. We want to read the event. We're on a series like Savage Adventures that crossed over with War of the Realms and Empire, I believe. So some of you just want to read the issues, don't want to go into a event book. You buy even more book. Poe Dameron, another Star Wars book. I'm kind of sick of Star Wars books. I need to get back on the Vader Kieran Gillen run. I'll probably do that next time, and then finish the Poe Dameron Charles Soule run. It wasn't bad, not as bad as Lando, but it's like the thing with manga. Manga, I read a few ones that were kind of slower, not slower, but kind of like not as interesting as I remember them being, or not remember them being, which wasn't interesting, it wasn't going anywhere. But that's what I felt. It's kind of the same with Star Wars. It's kind of like, you know what, too much of it. I'm gonna give it a break before I go insane. All new X-Men, still decent, still a good comic. I'd say I was more excited for the Guardians of the Galaxy's issues and the crossover with all new X-Men than I was the X-Men books. Because I'm comparing them too, because they're also both written by Brian Michael Bendis. It's still good. It's still a good comic that I think a lot of people give too much flack for. Like it's not trying to be the next best thing. It's just trying to be a pretty good X-Men book, and it does that. It does what it came here to do. Nothing groundbreaking. At least I don't think they're trying to be anything groundbreaking. They're just trying to be interesting and testing. Doctor Strange, the Serpent Supreme, Sorcerer Supreme. It was good. Very interesting, a little convoluted here and there, but probably one of the better Doctor Strange ones. But I'd still say Jason Aaron's run is better because it did a lot more than this did. And this one felt like it was just a zany, crazy, because this is for kids, so don't have to make a whole lot of sense, Doctor Strange book. But I still enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to do Preacher next. Preacher, one of my favorite comics of all time. The less said, the better. But now, I'm going to move on to 1602. What time are we? Oh my god, almost an hour again. How does this keep happening? Alright. So, 1602 New World versus 1602 by Neil Gaiman. New World written by Greg Pak. And then the hardcover I have also had the Fantastic Four. It's like S-T-I-C-K, not S-T-I-C. It's 1602, so we say it differently. Now, this, I don't know if that's how they spelled fantastic back then. That's probably the whole reason why it's called that. That's how they spelled fantastic back then. Like a stick. Anyways, makes sense. That's what it sounds like. Anyways, I know it's unfair to compare these two, because it's like comparing apples to oranges, which I know you can technically do. It's like comparing Preacher to Ghost Rider by Garth Ennis. It can't be done, because one's really good, one's not so good. Even for those who likes Ghost Rider run. Sorry, my dog's barking at someone's home. 1602 by Neil Gaiman is for the reader that really does not mind that a comic goes nowhere. The first 3 issues is all conversations. I understand people like that, and I did. I remember second time around I read it 3 times. My second time around I got a lot better. Third time around I was kind of like, But New World gives you what you want, an action-packed story that also finds time to actually get to know the characters, character development. They find time to do that. 1602 is just talking, some action, some character, a good amount of character development too. I understand why you like 1602, but I kind of like New World a little bit better because it's more action-packed. Because more happens in New World than does in 1602, and 1602 was a lot of talking. And I feel like the plot doesn't progress a whole lot. It could do a lot more if there wasn't too much talking. I still like both, and 1602 technically I would say 1602 is a better book, but one actually there's actual stuff going on, and the other it's a lot of talking, which I don't mind that in a comic obviously, but it's like too much of it, it gets annoying, but it's very complicated how I feel about it, but that's my 2 cents on it. One is more action-packed, one more stuff happens in, and the other one is just a lot of talking. And then we get somewhere, but it's like almost, not actually, but almost too little too late. But that, as I say, is that. A lot of comics to talk about, and I'll have a lot of comics to talk about next time. Although, not more, because I still talk about the movies. But nothing I read besides Assassin's Creed and the only ones I hate, I shouldn't say everything I liked except for blah, 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 because that's obvious. But Assassin's Creed and Lakota 2, and especially the Star Wars ones, and then Darkened Wish. Darkened Wish was probably the worst one. Assassin's Creed and Darkened Wish are tied for the worst. Star Wars were okay, and then so was Coda, and the rest were standouts, pretty much. Unless said otherwise, obviously, but check them all out. Form your own opinion. None of them were atrocious. None of them were, like, absolutely deplorable. Like, I wouldn't recommend them. No, I still recommend them all, because, your opinion matters, too. Alright, man, this is my dog's barking.